Welcome back to another episode of the Rough Stuff Podcast, episode 14. I'm Rough Stuff CEO Garett. I have Zack, Rough Stuff President, here with me.
Hello.
And Mallory, Rough Stuff CFO.
Hey, guys.
Today, our guest is someone we are very interested to talk to. He's a television show creator, off-road enthusiast, and has produced shows such as Overhaulin, Extreme RVs, and Are You Faster Than a Redneck? Bud Brutsman. It's great to have you on the podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's an exciting podcast and a good topic. I like rough stuff. Don't think that the wrong way. I like most of the stuff I do is pretty brutal and pretty intense. And I guess we can get into some of that in a little bit.
Love it, man.
So, Bud, we got linked up through your wife, Adrienne Janik, who was on our episode 8 on the podcast. And we found out that you actually have quite a bit of experience in off-road. So why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got started in off-road and your background with racing and the race in the Score Series?
Having AD on there was awesome. But she doesn't normally like to talk about my racing because she, although incredibly supportive from afar, she definitely doesn't do. Supportive is this way. My wife supports it in a way that she doesn't lock the door when I'm leaving for the desert.
Yeah.
She doesn't necessarily. She's like, hey, I'm going to go race. She's like, bye. She doesn't stop me, but she definitely doesn't wear the fan t-shirts. I can tell you a story about that. So, it's funny, just, in early 2000 or 2002, 2003, I created a series for the Discovery Channel called Dive. And truth be told, this is kind of how this thing got created, right? So, I created an anthology series, right? Which is kind of like what you guys are doing now. Like, you guys have your own podcast, you guys control to create it, then we just talk about subjects that are interesting to you, and then you hope that the audience follows that logic. And I was doing that back in 2002, 2003 in the kind of the automotive space. So if I wanted to go race Corvettes, or that's something that I wanted to do as a hardcore enthusiast, I would go race Corvettes, and I would figure out a way to film it, and we put it up as an episode. And it just happened that, if I want to design a car, in that particular one, we were able to link up with Carroll Shelby and design a couple cars with him and just watch him follow through. Which leads me to, I really got to live out any automotive dream that I ever wanted to do, right? Bonneville was another thing. Like, what is cool in the automotive space? Let's go to Bonneville. Let's go 200 miles an hour on the salt. Okay, that sounds badass. Let's go do it. And literally just write it up and submit it to the network, and they were like, okay. And one of them, I got connected with a very close friend of mine named Rafael Navarro, whose family was pretty steeped into stuff in Mexico and Baja. And he was the brand manager for Vehicle Rich Tires at the time. And he kept on talking about it. Like, hey, why don't we do an episode like this? And I'm like, what the hell is it? What do we do? And obviously, I've heard about the Baja 1000 for years. So we ended up I embedded with a team, watched the team prep. It was the Herbst team, Tim and Troy Herbst, which are very good friends of mine, and Jerry Herbst, the father. And we embedded with them, watched them prep, go through their chase plan, I hand out t-shirts and go through their dinners, and we embedded with them the entire time. And this is back, and I don't know, it's really weird. There was an old saying, which is, I don't know who said it, but like, if I knew I was in the middle of history, I would have stopped and paused a little bit and took a look around. But we were racing, at the time, we were following Larry Rossler, and they were in the Truggy, the Land Shark. And in 2003, they were campaigning that truck. But here we are, I'm just, crazy producer jackass. And I'm like, okay, well, that seems like a good team. So we embedded with them, helicopters, and we were at dinners, and like the whole Baja experience at the highest level with the host team at the time. And they had Larry Rossler in the Truggy, and that thing is going for it. Anyhow, so we did a peninsula run in a minivan. We had a minivan.
In a minivan?
So fuck you. You want to do rough stuff? Try that. Right? So renting a fucking minivan in San Diego and chasing the Baja 1000 in 2003, like 5 people crammed in a minivan. One of them was like a publicist from BS. It's like, oh yeah, I love her dearly. Her name's Layla, and we had my whole crew there. And she's like, and she somehow got BS to sign her. She's from Phillips Nolan, H&K, and she got assigned to production. So we had a PR chick, and some other people in a goddamn minivan, and they're bombing down the peninsula. And what's interesting about off-road racing and SCORE in particular down in Mexico, it is just a wacky, magical thing, right?
Yeah.
So we are, and I'll explain the magic. And anybody who's been down there, they understand it, they know it. So, we do this whole thing with a Baja, and I'll try to make this short. And then literally, I don't even know if we had a GPS. I guarantee you we didn't. It wasn't iPhones. It doesn't matter if you had. We had no phones. So we had a minivan and a map, like a map book that Jeff Cummings from Vehicle just gave me. So anyhow, we're bombing down the peninsula. The first time in my life, first time I've ever been down there to Baja for a race. Like 2003, 2002, and we're following this amazing team, which I didn't know they were amazing at the time, and now I know them very well, and they were the top team. And then we film them at the start line, and then we kind of look at each other, me and the film crew, and the guys like, what do we do? Like, well, apparently we have to get on the highway in the goddamn minivan, and if anybody knows anything about Baja, we have these gigantic, huge, black on black speed bumps you hit that launch the minivan. You don't know you're sleeping in the middle of the night, and they're about 3.5 feet wide, maybe about a foot tall. Probably don't want to exaggerate. They're called humps or whatever the fuck they're called. There's some kind of Mexican name for them. And you hit them in the middle of the night, or whoever's driving, because they're not colored. They're not white. They're just black. They're black on black, and you drive into the middle of the night in the minivan. And all of a sudden, you hit one of those things.
Full surprise.
You're going off like. You're floating on the top of the ceiling of the minivan, and some guy you hired is painting that you just paid to drive and hit it, and you're like, I didn't see it. Anyhow, long story short, 800 miles into the race, down from Ensenada to La Paz, we get stopped in this road crossing. I don't know what a road crossing was at the time. So like, shit, what is this? Like, so there's flashing lights and people with flags. Are like, oh, the race course intersects the highway, and some of the race cars jump on the highway. Oh shit, we're stuck in the middle of the race. We're never going to see these guys finish. Oh damn. So anyhow, we wait there for about 5 minutes, and here comes a truck over the top of the hill. This is the Baja Magic. So keep in mind who we're chasing at the time, and dropping down through the ravine, jumps up on the highway, is Larry Rossler in the first Truggy. The car that we're chasing, we just intersected 800 miles, 14 tacos, 6 beers, a shitty minivan, and a bunch of flying jumps. Later, we end up dead nuts behind the truck. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. So then my camera guy leans out the window, and now we got driving shots of the Truggy winning the race. We're like, this is the craziest thing I've ever been through in my life. It's insane. And then they take off. They end up winning the race that year in the Truggy. And so now I'm a genius, right? So I got out of this minivan thing. And now I have a pre-runner and all kinds of stuff. But I'm a genius now. I turned this documentary into Travel Channel. This team that we randomly picked or got help picked into off the Navarro, and we follow the Truggy and Larry Rossler, who's the legend of all legends, down, and they win the race. And this is kind of how my career and how that particular series really called Ride. We just did these amazing things and intersected some of the most amazing people. So, but that, long story short, that's how I got started off the racing. And then the following year, the Fitters offered me a seat to go race in the Baja 1000.
Wow. Nice. I gotta say, man, that is a hell of a spin up to this whole career. I mean, that is like, that's a story. That's awesome.
Yeah, that's cool.
Man.
So you also have been a part of SEMA Battle of the Builders. We also know you did a 2008 Raptor development team. So how close were these linked to those experiences?
Well, SEMA is something different. I mean, I've been filming, it looks through the short one, I've been filming at SEMA for forever. I mean, it's funny, I went there in 2002 with Chip Bruce. Ever since I started out getting involved with automotive television, SEMA is the epicenter because it's the most amazing car show on the planet. And then really what happened is I started, as my career started taking off, I started working very closely with some of the executives at SEMA to kind of build their experiential markets. So we were doing ride and drive, and then I got Overhaulin as a live show, and then we started doing, as I get further involved with the media and development of SCORE, we were bringing SCORE qualifying out to SEMA and had a 70,000 square foot display. We launched Dust to Glory, which is a movie I produced at SEMA. We did a private viewing. We did a bunch of stuff. So SEMA is a client of mine, and they are amazing. they come to me and say, here's what we want to do. And the honest part is really what we've done is kind of meld, entertainment with the convention world and kind of this experiential marketing. Cars moving, live car shows, and then we obviously we created Battle of the Builders 7 years ago. We were in Colorado at an off-road racing ranch in Colorado. Me and two executives at SEMA, and we're like, how do we do it? And Battle of the Builders is by far the coolest competition, around. I mean, there's Amber and there's all these other kind of things in the hot rod world, but it has become one of the most, probably the most prestigious automotive competition events. We have television, we have judges, and the way we designed it, you would judge by your peers, not by 3 or 4 rows of judges. So Battle of the Builders is really, really cool. Then you asked something else. You asked about the Raptors?
Yeah, so we saw that you had some involvement in the Raptor development as far as the team, and that you also produced commercials for Ford Motor Company as well.
I get afforded a lot of good opportunities because I'm in media and I'm in television, and I'm also kind of a wild jackass who likes to drive. So, I started on the Vehicle Performance team as a driver after my 2006 race, which we crashed and almost killed 2 people in our car in 2006. I wasn't driving, by the way, so I don't know how I evolved from that. But
disclaimer: was not driving.
Yeah.
I was not driving at that time. I was not driving, and I wasn't in the car. And I remember I can tell you that story. It's a Baja legend story. And what's interesting about Baja legend stories, I can tell you this particular story, and you guys have been around it, and I know you guys have been around King of the Hammers and all these other people, and no one's ever heard of this story. It is the most insane story, and one of the most insane stories in off-road racing. And literally, people who heard about it, like they're in airplanes and other teams, thought my team was dead. They said, those guys are dead. But I'll tell you the story because it's fun. So we had put together a performance team. And we're a bunch of, whatever. I'm a rebellious jackass producer, which doesn't really fit. But then we had a couple X Games guys. We had 3 or 4 really good X Games guys. And we also had Tracy Jordan, who was a rock crawler, an early rock crawler, who did a bunch of stuff. And he was an awesome racer. So they put this brand performance team together. There was Mike Metzger and Kenny Bartram and Tracy and Kenny Bartram's Cowboy Kenny. He's an X Games guy. And I had Mike Metzger, the godfather of freestyle motocross. He's in my car. Unfortunately, he's in my car. Then we had to train these wild, crazy guys. Like, okay, I think you need to slow down a little bit and not hit shit. And then we'd go pre-run.
It's not a bike.
And then we would pre-run. And then we'd go race. I don't even think Metzger that year pre-ran, by the way. I know I pre-ran, but I don't think half the team pre-ran that year. I'm a newbie. I'm not a sports legend like these guys. So I'll take every opportunity to get behind the wheel and go pre-run. So I pre-ran thousands of miles that year. Then it would be for the team, just to hone my skills and read the terrain. Anyhow, so what we did, Mike and I got in the car. Mike Metzger and I got in the car in the beginning of it, and I'll try to make this short. I know the show's not that long, but I know Mike and I got in the car, and then he lost the wheel. We got in last place, and then I got in the car, and at the time I thought I was pretty fast. I got us up first or second place. And I remember this very well, and I'll try to make this short, even though it's not a short story. We were down right outside of San Javier, Michigan. We're really deep into the peninsula at that time. And I remember this so clearly. And I remember we met our team like 10 or something like that. And Kenny Bartram would get out of the car. Kenny Bartram gets in the car, and then Tracy Jordan gets in the car. And I remember I grabbed Kenny, who was an X Game guy who's just learning where he's going to rally school. So he wanted to hang it out a little bit. And I said, dude, listen, take it easy for the first 13 miles. So the first 13 miles, through the wash of rock, and we go up this switchback dirt road up to San Javier Mission. If anybody knows San Javier Mission Road, back in the day, back then, 2006, I think it was, with switchback dirt, and there are 300, 400 foot drop off cliffs.
Oh,
so if you hang it out, if you think you're Robbie Gordon or something fucking crazy like that, he can get away with it. And I've been in the car when he does it, sliding sideways around those roads. If you think you're Reese Millen and you're in Pikes Peak, you're in a lot of trouble. So I remember grab Kenny because I'm pretty forceful. I'm like, listen, don't be a douche. Make sure Just take it easy. You're not going to win the race up that. And the backside of the hill off the center here is really fast. You can go like hell. Like, yeah, no problem. So they took off, and it's pretty slow getting through the wash, and we get San Javier. You can do okay, but you don't want to be a rock star on that hill. So we get down pretty far into outside of La Paz, and I remember I checked in with a wide open thing, and then I go to this trailer, a wide open trailer. Tommy Morris was running wide open at the time, and he's like, "Hey, I need to talk about Bud." I'm like, "Well, that's funny, because it's me." And he goes, "You have a phone call?" And I'm like, "What?" So I get a phone call, and it's from my wife. And my wife, it's 3:00 in the morning, and my wife called me and said, "Are you okay?" I said, "Yeah, I'm fine." Why? She goes, "I got a call from the sat phone, because my sat phone was in the car, and they said that they crashed, and that Tracy is unconscious."
Oh no!
Oh my
I'm like,
god!
this is coming from my wife. And here's the other thing. They're like, people are completely stupid, and they don't listen. I remember I showed people how to use the sat phone, and then I remember, and I know why this exactly happens. Also, another reason why my wife hates Ralph Racing, because she gets a phone call at 3:00 in the morning, like, "We crashed," and she's like, "Who the fuck is this?" She's like, "We crashed." Because here's what happens. I show my whole entire team how to use my sat phone. And so they didn't do that, and are also just crashed horribly. And so instead of calling a number, the emergency numbers that are listed on the sat phone, they just hit send, which is usually the last number we call. And I remember before I left, I called my wife, told her I love her, I'm going to go over the weekend, everything's going to be fine. So that was the last number we called. So they are in this drunken super crashing the car. One guy's unconscious. And they just hit send. They call my wife. So then my wife has a protocol to call around to certain people to try to get a hold of me. And she gets a hold of somebody wide open. Doesn't matter. What matters is I'm about an hour away from the pit, and I need to get back to my team. Instincts take over, right? Because in ball, people don't understand that you're there when you're chasing, and that's it. And no one's going to come get you. No one's going to help you, especially if you do something stupid like that. So sure enough, and it goes up to helicopters and everything, but there's a car, a BC class car, that slid off the edge at San Javier, which is about a 300-foot straight cliff down.
Wow.
Somehow they're live, which is good. So we got confirmation live. Tracy Jordan's got a head injury, and we have to go get him. So we go get him. We go back to the pit. Nobody's at the pit. BS Critters pit. No one's around there anymore. So there's one guy. This is a true story. It's the funniest story in the planet. There's one guy, and he's there picking up cans from the BS Critters pit. So he's picking up trash and cans and aluminum cans, and I see he's got this little stock Toyota truck. So I just trained my ass off. So I think I'm thinking Big Joe badass. So I walk up to him and I say, "Hey, give me your keys to your truck." That's my introduction. And he's like, "What are you talking about?" What he does is, I got two injured drivers that they just wrecked up on the course a couple miles away. I need to go and get them. So he hands me the key to the truck and says, "Can I go with you?" And I had a medic with me. And I said, "Fine." I put the medic, who is a Marine sniper friend of mine, his name's Captain, he's a firefighter. So I put the medic with me with a med bag, and I'm stealing this guy's truck. I literally, in my mind, like it's some fucking stupid movie, they're going to knock this guy out and take his truck. I didn't care, because I have vigilante justice on my mind. Right? I got two injured drivers. If you're not going to help me, you're the only guy around. I'm going to fucking knock you out. So anyway, I take this Toyota truck, which, by the way, this is not a typical truck. This is like a Taliban Toyota truck, right? It doesn't have a biscuit on it. It's really slow, but it's got 250,000 miles on it, like they do with the Taliban in the Middle East.
Yeah.
And it's a little kind of short little, like the 1991, whatever cab. So, I just start driving the thing. So I think I'm Joe Baja, but I'm in this car, this little tiny Toyota, going through the San Javier wash, and they just beat the crap out of it. We're going like 2 miles an hour. We're just going crawling over the thing. And finally we get through the wash in this stock Toyota with 3 people in it, up to the San Javier Road, which is it's a smooth, at the time, it was a smooth dirt road. So we start going, and we're like, okay, but I talked to Kenny on the phone, which I left that detail, so we're there about 11 miles in. So we traveled for about 11 miles, and we couldn't find him. We're stopping, we're looking over the edge, like, oh my God, you're looking, peering off the end of the earth because it's so black. You're like, how are these guys alive? So finally, it wasn't 11 miles, it was actually 13 miles in, and we find him. And another Jeep, who you guys probably know, And I don't, Tracy, who's a rock crawler, some other rock crawler, I think it was TJ Holmes, it was some other Jeep class stopped because they were on the side of the road. Just two guys standing there, no race car, no nothing, just standing on the side of the road. And two guys stopped, like, "Hey, you guys okay?" It's like, Tracy's got a compression injury on his forehead. We show up. Doctor does, or a medic does an eval on him. I go down and see the car, and it is absolutely destroyed.
Just completely wadded up.
6 times off.
Wow.
6 times off, and they did barrel rolls. And Sonny was awake the whole time because he knew he screwed up. He hung a rear wheel off the back of it, back like I told him not to, and they went for a ride. Tracy smashed his head against the roll bar and crushed his helmet. And it's not funny now because he's alive. He crushed his helmet, and there was a bruise on his forehead. He looked like he was young enough, old enough. Mikhail Gorbachev had this big, gigantic bruise on his forehead, which mirrored the roll bar that he smashed. And I went down there, climbed down about 250, 300 feet. I got my sat phone, got a couple other things out of the car. I'm like, I don't know how you guys made it out of that alive.
Jeez.
I don't know if this has happened to like another team, but I swear I remember this happen. I remember this going on back in the day.
Oh yeah, and I think there was a really good rock crawling team. I think it might have been TJ. It might have been, I don't know if it was Shannon Campbell. It was somebody notable who knew Tracy. But that's what it is. It was the lore of like everybody thought they were dead. I knew the helicopter guys and some of the medics. They're like, the car went off at San Javier Mission. And like, oh, they're dead, right? Because they were inverted straight down cliffs, so you wouldn't hit anything. Luckily, they hit one part where you could tumble and scrub some speed off, but the car was completely destroyed. Rear wheel was taken off. I had pictures of it, and then they had to climb out of there. And Tracy was puking and pissing himself, and he smelled like ass. And we put him in the back. We put him in the back of the truck, and then I turned it around and we drove back. It took us probably 2 or 3 hours to get back. And then we drove him to the hospital. And then at the hospital, just to tell you how big of a jerk off I am, I went to the hospital and I told the doctor in Spanish that he hurt his penis. The doctor told him to take all his clothes off, and Tracy's like, "Why is he telling me to take my clothes off?"
All concussed and confused.
That's my long story again. So sorry about that.
I mean, that's a great story.
That's
crazy,
wild,
man.
man.
Yeah,
that's gnarly.
That's amazing they survived, and yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So how did that kind of wrap back into like the Raptor development, whatnot? How does that kind of connect in there?
Well, so the short story of that was that that was a really interesting, fun experience that we had with the performance team for BF and then they put me on the performance team in 2007.
Those are the BFG guys.
Yeah, we did one in 2007, and then so I started to kind of gain whatever popularity and a lot of experience. And I spent a lot of time down in the desert developing tires for BF and then there. Through my media contacts, I had this guy named Jamie Allison, who was the head of Ford Performance at the time, and he said, "I want you to be involved with." It was in 2008. I want you to be involved with this new development project. Come up to Detroit, right? So I flew up to Detroit. He picked me up with a GT40, old one, not new one, not old as in '66, but old as in 2005. Well, it's a big one of those. And took me to the development team, and there was 3 or 4 of us, Steve Olligus, who's a very close friend of mine, Greg Fouts, who's an amazing racer, and Jamal Hamidi from Ford, and they unveiled this clay model of this thing called the Raptor.
Wow.
Off-road capable Raptor, and then was put on the early development team. We were developing a bunch of stuff, testing a bunch of stuff out in Borrego, and then I said, well, guys, this is monumental. We need to film this. We need to do film. So then I had a lot of contacts with Ford. So I said, okay, you guys have to film this. I'm going to do a documentary. I don't care if you pay for it or not. I'm going to do it. So we started documenting the build and the testing and what Ford put into that. And thank God, because I mean, really, when we look at that thing 10 years later, we just recently did an article 10 years later on the Raptor. That's 2008 when we did the prototype thing. It's amazing because that is, I talked to a lot of executives at Ford, and that is the number one special market vehicle that Ford has ever made. And that includes Shelbys, and that includes Mustangs, and Shelby Mustangs, and things like that. The Ford Raptor is the number one special market vehicle they've ever developed. That thing is just so iconic, and it's so amazing and brave. And I say brave, I'll tell you why, because 2008 was a huge recession. Right?
Yeah.
It was a massive. So now you're putting an off-road capable 6.2 liter, $75,000 truck on the road in the middle of what real estate crash and a massive recession. So it's socially not responsible.
Big gamble. Totally awesome.
So you
That's
had
wild.
previously spoken about King of the Hammers. Have you been before?
Yeah, don't curse my name. Please don't curse my name. But I have not been. I don't like the cold that much, even though I do a lot of stuff in the cold. I have not been to King of Hammers. I have, every one of my friends, and I know it is an absolute anomaly, and I know it's amazing. And all my friends win the race, and I'm friends with Casey Curry, and I'm very close. And I've raced with him. And I've raced with Brad Lovell. Brad Lovell and I won the Baja 1000 together. The same year he won King of the Hammers. So yeah, I have not been. We had, one of my business partners is Andrew Hendricks. He goes out there all the time. I just have not been. And Dave Cole is a very good friend of mine. I like Dave a lot. I see Dave in the weirdest places in Mexico. I look at some random guy, I love Dave Cole, and some random guy pulls up, "Hey bud, do you need help?" I'm like, "Who the fuck are you?" He's like, "Dave Cole." I'm like, "What are you doing here?" And you're on the middle of a hillside in Mexico. Dave Cole goes pulling up and wants to help you. It's so out of context. I'm like, "Don't you win Hammers?" But Dave Cole couldn't be a nicer guy, and has helped us out. I mean, raced down there, but he helped us out so much, and I think he's actually pulled me out of a couple things in Mexico. You need to win the most random people in the middle of the wash or in the middle of the field down there. They just come up to you, "Hey, I got a solar. Here's a roll." I think he's like, "Did I see you in San Diego last week?" And we just kind of talk about stuff. But I haven't been to King of Hammer. I plan on doing it, but things have to kind of be done. I'm a weirdo. I have to have a purpose. I didn't go any place just to go. I have to have a purpose. I got to go race. I got to develop something. I got to film something. I just have not developed that thing yet that I'm going to go do.
Yeah, you should do a series called People of King of the Hammers, because there's a lot of really unique people that come out, and it's kind of like the off-road Burning Man as we describe it.
Or do People of Burning Man.
Yeah. Oh yeah, you should go to Burning Man.
That'd be more
too.
interesting.
But at King of the Hammer, go ahead.
You guys, you're exactly right. Though. I was thinking the other day, just preparing for this call, like it is. It's like a cool version, not old burned out hippies. So disrespect any burned out hippies, it's Burning Man. But it is kind of the cool off roader, flat bill Burning Man. I agree. I thought that
100%.
Yeah, the weather is kind of up and down. Like maybe 7-8 years ago, it was raining and it was really muddy. But a lot of times it's warm, really warm during the day. But at nighttime it is cold. But you can just hang out in your super awesome camper.
That high desert just changes so often. Yeah, it's tough to predict.
I feel you on the cold, man. We've had times where it's getting down to the teens and stuff, and it was 75 that day. It was a beautiful day, and then it's freezing at night.
And then there's a dust storm.
And windy just for 7 days straight, and
and the day you're leaving, it's all sunny and beautiful.
Just sandblasted to the face.
Yeah. But you should definitely try it.
As I said, I'm not a good spectator, right? So I have to have a reason. I got to, someone's got to hand me the keys and go, "Hey, we want you to race with us to go do it." And then I'll just, I don't do anything as a spectator.
Yeah.
I don't believe or understand, like fantasy football or fantasy baseball. I have no idea what that is. I don't do any. So I have this thing in my life, like I don't, it's the name of your podcast, but I don't do anything fantasy. Like, I don't know what the fuck that is. Like, either I'm going to go do it or play it, or I'm not going to pretend. Let's pretend I own a team or whatever they do. I'm not, but I'll end up going sooner or later.
Gotcha.
So I'm a little bit more curious too about producing. What does a producer do exactly, and how did you get into producing?
It's such an interesting question because people don't know what the fuck I do.
Yeah.
It's so weird. Because you're like, a dentist, you can kind of know, a race car driver, you kind of know what to do, but producing is such a wacky, ambiguous thing. Production, because I own a large production company, right? So many things I do is we obviously create content. I create content. I create a bunch of shows. I created Overhaulin, I created rides, and stuff like that. we sit there and identify what the market needs, and the market changes all the time. As we know now, we're in streaming and podcasting and YouTube, and so you've got to really be on top of it. And it's an amazing time for content creators like myself. It's now custom content and content across the board is being consumed so much. So producers pay attention to the marketplace. We also make connections. Like my pseudo racing career kind of brought me into a lot of, as you said, my relationship with Ford, my relationship with Friedrich, my relationship with Optima Battery, and most importantly, the most important thing, I'll paint another awesome picture for you, is my relationship with Score and Roger Norman. And had I not followed what I thought was, my passion and my style is really to embed myself and become one with whatever the subject matter I'm doing. And I did it when I wrote a bunch of books on Navy SEALs, 3 of them, and I did a bunch of specials, and I had to go down and party and train and shoot and be a part of them. And luckily, I didn't do some of the Navy SEALs, that would have been problematic my life. But I try to evolve myself into everything that I'm doing and everything I'm part of, just so I can tell the story from that perspective. I'll tell you how my involvement evolved in Score, not the rap.
We want to know.
It's an amazing story. So, I tend to race at a high profile level. I'm racing a lot of stuff. I did the Raptor stuff, and I continue to race. With the Friedrich. So, and I tried. And what the drug, which is endorphins and that racing gives you, right? There's a drug. There's 2 parts of it. There's the highs and the lows, and this is also the energy you get from racing. Then there's which I call the crack, and the crack is 3rd place. 3rd place is crack. 2nd place is like crack with heroin, right? And which is, as you get into Mexico, as you evolve, right? Most of us near mortals, not like not Rob McCaffrey and the guys who win it all the time, but for us mere mortals, you kind of want to go to Mexico and you want to just compete. Like if I can just get into a beat up old Volkswagen and compete in the dust and pretend that I'm one of these guys and pretend that I'm in the toughest race in the world. And if I finish, which I finished a bunch of times, and we get this little Kenny Pin, Saltfish, who's a dear friend of mine, which I've never seen, and it's like the highlight of my life. We get 2005, we get this little finishing pin. Like, hey, you got to finish. You just little Kenny run a 12 pin. And like, I just about killed myself 14 times. I got this shitty little pin. But then we start evolving into 2nd place, and 1st place, and then finishing. It's like, wait a minute, I could actually win this. Like, winning would probably sound pretty fucking awesome if I actually got into a team and took it real serious and poured some more money into it and worked out harder and worked out the terrain and pre-ran a little bit more, so you start getting to that crack. And I did that after the Raptor program. I did that for 3 or 4 years, trying to win. And it never really worked out. I mean, I raced with Casey Curry, and we were close to winning. We took 2nd place, and that was demoralizing and horrifying because I got stuck in the snow pit for about 3 hours. I got stuck in the snow pit, and we just stuck. We were leading the race, and I crested this perfect, packed, beautiful road, and I was hauling ass, and I crested this hill and just stuck to the snow pit. Wasn't marked. Nobody called it. My co-driver didn't say, "Hey, buddy, it was a still bed. We didn't see it during free running. We just buried it up to the doors." And like, oh fuck. Anyhow, got out and got 2nd place, and Casey hates me for it to this day. Anyway, super long story short. 2012, we put Brad Levels on my team, Kyle Tucker on my team, a couple other guys are on our team, and we ended up pre-running, working really hard. It's a peninsula run from Ensenada to La Paz, and we end up in 2012 winning our class.
Oh yeah.
So fucking amazing. And we had literally almost a perfect race. Brad blew a CV joint like 90 miles out, and we were in 1st place with a 2.5 hour lead. And I bought a separate CV and put it in a plastic bag and folded it up and put it inside it to the door. And I'm like, got on the sat phone and like, no problem. There's another one in the door. So he pulls the one out of the door, and he says, and he calls back and says, the ball bearings in the TV came out and there's no grease in it.
Oh
gosh. Shit. I said, okay. take the grease out of the back one and pull the ball bearings out of the old one and jam it. So him and Kyle Tucker just kind of cobbled the thing together. Two very capable drivers and big builders. Cobbled the thing together, threw the CV back on in the middle of the desert with a 12-point wrench that we taped to the roll bar. I've thrown a CV before with a couple of wrench to take it off. And then you have to wait for your chase team 5 hours to do it. We had all the tools, all the experience. It took about an hour off our lead. They put the CV on. And we finished the race, and we won.
Wow!
My first phone call, you'll laugh a bit because you met her. I called my wife. And I said, "Honey, just won the Baja 1000," and she says, "Great, now you can quit." And she hung up.
I could definitely relate to that.
I got no love. I got no love, no nothing. She's like, "Congratulations, going on top. You can quit now." She just hung up. She didn't do shit.
I love her. Well, speaking of Adrian, she did not care. I wanted to ask you about, speaking of Adrian, your involvement with Overhaulin and how you like working with AJ, and I also want to know how you guys met. Did you guys meet with Overhaulin, or were you already with her and brought her on that project?
So yeah, I created. I'll finish my Baja story later because it's still an amazing story as we win. That wasn't a win story; it was something else. But I'll answer your question. So I created Overhaul in 2002, 2003 with Chip Bruce in mind, and we started building the hit show. We did our first season with PLC as a part of a turbo block, and actually Adrian helped me tap Chris and Courtney, who were our first hosts. At the time that I created Overhaul, I was always married to Adrian. We were married for a year and a half, 2 years when we were doing it, and then we definitely did not meet on Overhaul. And I don't know, Garett, how you and your wife work together, but it's definitely tricky. I figured out a method, and I do it through fear, which I'll explain. Like I threaten people, but I'll give you some advice how to do it because we've done it successfully, but it's not easy. You have to kind of divide them up. So what happened is. I have this massively hit show in my hands, in 2003, 2004, whatever time it was. And the host of our show, Courtney Hansen, wonderful lady, she ends up getting a manager. And this manager turns out to be kind of an aggressive dickhead. And he comes to me and he's very aggressive. He says, "Congratulations on the show. It's great. The show doesn't happen without Courtney. She's awesome. I'm going to renegotiate her contract." I told him no. I'm not going to allow you to renegotiate a contract. I signed it for 2 seasons. Here's what we're doing. But he wants to be super aggressive, and then he threatens me. He's going to go over my head and go to the network, and he's going to demand, all this money for Courtney because she's the star of the show. Blah 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 blah. So he does it. He goes, "I go for it." So he calls the network, and the network calls me afterwards and says, "What's going on?" And I tell them. They said, "Can you do the show without her?" I said, "Yes." So I got rid of her. So she leaves the show. Kind of like in the line of Farrah Fawcett, right? You get a hit show, and you're in, or you're one season into a hit show and you decide to, let's just be respectful and you decide to make a career move if it's not good for you. The thought process, the network didn't care. The network's like, it doesn't matter, Chip's the star, do it. But see, I felt as a storyteller that I always get to end up telling, I want to capture the female viewers. I want to capture that story part of it. So I was lacking a female. I was like, we have to have a female. And we're literally like mid-season, we're in like third episode of our second season, something like that. And I felt we needed to have a female presence on the set. It's not only something amazing to look at because Adrian is amazing and beautiful. And so my wife at the time, who's Adrian, was a model. She's a Ford model and was doing print and runway and doing all her stuff. And I came to her and I said, "Hey, I think you can do this. And I think we created kind of a garage persona around you, not Adrian, the supermodel, but let's do AJ, the garage chick, who doesn't pretend to know everything about cars, but is in there willing to work and learn and ask questions that the viewers want to ask." Because we had a very unique show at the time. We had a time that was like 50-50 male-female because of the way that we told the story, right? The story, it's not like we're going to take this old Camaro and check out this 350 and check this. It's not all male-female. Our show, the way I created it, was all storytelling. Cars are connective, kind of a connective tissue between humans, between people, right? Yeah. And anybody, doesn't matter what way you walk up, they can tell you if that's grandpa's car, and you are doing something sentimental and you want to bring it back to original glory and then give that back to grandpa, and that resonates with people, real people. I mean, people are like, holy shit, what a really cool thing to do for grandpa. I want to watch this. And some people will watch it for, and by the way, this is something I had to learn. It's not something I think I'm a genius I had to create. It's not something you learn. And I'll tell you how I learned it. It's like, as things started evolving, I started understanding, connecting why this particular mashup of ideas really worked. And it really would have to be, I would meet people who'd come up and say, oh my God, guys in airports, whatever, would come up to us and say, I love the Corvette episode. That was absolutely amazing. Right? And that would be a guy talking to me. So guys always, for the most part, guys would identify with the type of car. And I'm like that too. I wouldn't know necessarily the story. But then a female would come up to us and go, I love the Boy Scout episode. And I would have like, Boy Scout episode. Okay, which fucking car was that? And they're like, oh, it was a Comet. Oh, yeah, I know. That was a great Comet. what was happening is I'm doing this audience testing and figuring out like the females are really locking away the memory of the show based off the story, right? If it's, it's the grandpa's truck, it's the Boy Scout episode. So they would talk about the people and the guys would talk about the car, and they need the cars religiously. Every single car, they're like, oh, I love the Navy SEAL one, the returning soldier one, who's from the female. So we have this beautiful hybrid of storytelling all coming together, right? And it showed in our ratings. So our ratings were really high in the beginning because we had male, female, and at the time TLC is now, but at the time TLC was a female stealing that was trying to serve males, and we struck it because we dragged them in with the pictures of the Corvette, and the females would stay because they were already watching some other random show on TLC before ours, and they would stay and you were able to watch together. That's kind of at the time, it's a big trick in television, how to serve both audiences. Mm-hmm. So I felt that Adrian was a female was a very important part of that. So casting wise, I didn't have to ask the network if I could cast a female to do our pranks. So I brought Adrian in to do pranks, like 5 or 6 pranks right in a row. Like, this is our girl. We're going to dress her up like this. She's going to handle all of our pranks because at least I have some kind of female presence in our thing. So we started turning in rough tests with the network, and the network's like, who is that girl? I'm like, well, that's her name is AJ. And I said, I really want to try her out on pranks. And then the network says, well, can you ask her if she would like to be the co-host? And I did. I came back, hey, the network really liked what you did, the work you did, and the presence of who you are, and you be the co-host. So she came in second season, and she ended up being the co-host for the next 120 episodes. So that's, and it was shortened, but that's where they wrote the story of Adrian being on Overhaulin. So we were already married.
Gotcha. Oh yeah, I'd kind of shift gears a little bit. In my notes, I have that you worked with the military a little bit doing documentaries. You mentioned the Navy SEAL one. Could you tell us a little bit about that? That must have been a pretty interesting experience. You did some training and things like that with those guys?
Well, I'm a huge supporter of the military. I just got back from Alaska last week, and we went up to Alaska. About 10, it's probably 15 or 10 or 15, but we brought about 15 military veterans up to Alaska for kind of a fishing, hunting, shooting, relaxing thing. Our veterans right now are all going through a very tough time, and isolation, and the bars aren't open, the restaurants aren't open, there's no socialization, and it's isolation, and if you're dealing with a mental disorder, if you're dealing with PTSD, or any kind of thing, that really kind of exacerbates that problem. So I decided to take a group of veterans up to, and I partnered with an organization called Alaska Healing Hearts, and we brought them up there for evacuation. Wasn't your question, but how I got involved with the military is, I started doing, this is in the mid-90s. I started doing training videos, low-light training videos, CQB, long rifle sniper, knife fighting, ground fighting videos with the Navy SEALs down in San Diego. I became very good friends with a lot of the upper guys, some of the top guys on SEAL team at the time down at Warcom in San Diego, Coronado Island. And I was able to get friendly with the top admiral at the time in Warcom, and I went to the History Channel as a very cocky young producer, and I said, hey, I want to do the history of the Navy SEALs, and I have access to the Pentagon and through Warcom to access training and interviews and tell stories about the time, tell stories that were untold. Stories of Grenada, stories of blowing up an airplane in Panama, going after Noriega. We had these amazing stories. At the time, they weren't really ever told. And 35, 40 years from the inception of SEAL Team back in 1962, so I wanted to do the history of the SEAL. The History Channel was at the time going to be my new client. They made me prove through a bunch of letters and interviews and stuff like that I had access to Warcom and to the Pentagon. I got a letter from the Pentagon because of this general, because of this admiral, and History Channel said yes. They gave me piles of money and said, go, like, this is really bad for my liver. The piles of money, and they said, go hang out with the Navy SEALs for about a year and a half and go pull off an awesome documentary. So I did. And oh my God, we drank a lot. Drank a lot, hung out. Because those guys are just hard chargers. They just live hard. And you guys have been around the Sun Monks. I know a lot of them race down at King of the Hammers, but they're just amazing athletes and philosophers. They're just amazing people to be around. So I was lucky enough to have a glimpse with a bunch of SEAL Team guys early in my career, and I got Tom Selleck to narrate it, and then since then I've done about 6 or 7, or about 8 or 9 more documentaries on the military, Green Berets and the Reconnaissance School and stuff to Vietnam for the History Channel. So that was great.
That's cool.
Wow.
And then my books kind of spurred off because SEAL Teams are they're kind of like your very aggressive, super macho college friends who just constantly do shit and threaten your life. So after I put the 2-hour special out on the history of the Navy SEALs, it was actually called The Complete History of the Navy SEALs. I would go down there like I'm some kind of, like I think I'm some kind of hero, and my friends down at SEAL Team were mad at me, wanted to kill me. Wanted to kill me.
Dang. Have you done any work with or had any involvement with Jocko Willink or Leif Babin at all? Are you familiar with them?
No, I know Jocko. I don't know him personally. He does my friend's podcast all the time, but I don't know Jocko. I mean, at the time that I was down in the late 90s, early 2000s, Jocko, I think, was already operating. It's a really bad thing, but good for the growth of the community. So I was fortunate to be involved with SEAL Team and do all my producing and all my stuff. It's kind of a Cold War era. Right in 2001, when the Desert War and the Gulf War hit, SEAL Team had a big exposure to people, but they were also really operating at Warcom, and those guys kind of closed everything off. We were doing a lot of stuff in 96, 97, 98, 99, 2000. We were doing some stuff in that era, but the war started ramping up maybe in the Middle East. A lot of those guys, I say went away, but a lot of those guys went to go play in the sandbox. Some of them, a big portion of them, didn't come back because we lost a lot of special operators in that conflict, in those conflicts, not just the one.
Mm-hmm.
And I, there's a whole group of, I connected with a lot of them, like Parker Futrell and some other guys afterwards. But a lot of the guys who I were involved in, they're really, really high up in the senior, like Admiral McGuire. I think it was at this point was the chief of staff. But some of the young SEALs were just going through Bud, class 234, 240, 245, 250. Those guys were all. It's a different mentality. I can tell you that 'cause I've been back down to SEAL Team during the sense that when I was down there, they were all prepping. But then there's a different sense of urgency when guys are going through Bud and there's a conflict going on. Like Iraq and Afghanistan, these guys are just wired differently. There's no playing around. There's no cameras. Get that shit away from me. I'm training for real. I'm like, leave me alone. So, but I don't know, Jocko.
We also saw you created a military sponsor program for a Marine platoon in Iraq. Can you tell us more about that?
Oh my God, you guys want the longest stories.
They're good
ones,
stories.
man.
They're good topics.
Yeah.
Yeah, you've done a lot of cool things.
Yeah.
How did you know about that? So, and if there's a wacky tie-in, I promise you, there's a wacky tie-in. And it's really, really creepy. It's creepy. I remember I told you that I told you the Baja was magical, right? And then sometimes life becomes magical, and this is one of those stories. So there was when I was in the middle of doing let me get my thoughts together. I was in the middle of doing a Green Beret documentary for History Channel, and Don Mills, who's a friend of mine, I got connected to one of my employees, Dennis Farrell, who's another special forces guy. Connected me. We went out to 29 Palms, and met with the Bulldogs. Right? There's a group, a drone flying Bulldog group out there. And we just met with them when we did, and what started out was, hey, let's go do something nice for the kids, and we got, ice cream and clowns, and all their parents deployed, and no one really, their kids needed some attention through the town parks and stuff like that. That was just a little thing we decided to do with my company. And then I connected with this guy, and I'll never forget him. His name's Sergeant Major Pros. So I connected with Sergeant Major Pros, and he was getting deployed to Iraq and Afghanistan. And I just felt compelled after hearing their stories, and you hear a lot of stories, and there's a supply chain issue, and there's the missing home issue. So what I did is I gave Sergeant Major Pros my email address, and I said, how many people are in your squadron? And he said, 168. I said, okay, here's what you need to do. Here's my email address. If you guys need anything, I don't care what it is. You guys need chapstick, you need eye protection, if you guys need beef jerky, you name it, you email it to me, and I will ship it to you.
Wow.
Hell yeah, man.
That's nice.
Right? So it just give him the kind of, and I, they're called the Watchdog. DMU-1 is the name. I'm looking at their coin, the Marine Aerial Reconnaissance Group. They basically reconnaissance drones, and they're out of 21 pounds. So I gave my card to him and said, if you guys need anything, I will send you 168. Because at the time, there was a lot of press around about the supply chain. Right? And when they get over, they miss everything. So I don't care if it's a bar of soap, right? I said, you're at a poker game, and you want to bet someone you can get the cars here in a week, or you just call me and I'll send it to you so you guys can know to give a direct connection. So he did that. So he started asking, and nothing disrespectful. Beef jerky and eye protection, and the only wacky thing with stuff was like he sent me some photos of some Nautilus equipment that was all torn apart in the gym in Iraq, and he wondering if I could find replacement pads for like their Preacher Curl machine or one of their benches. So I got the model numbers of their Nautilus equipment, and I got new pads and stuff like that sent out. So it was nothing. It was simply in my office and other people in my office, we all partake. If it's chapstick, we send 168 of them. Send them over there. Eye protection, 168, we send them over there. We send them DVDs, magazines. They reciprocated amazing. So they would send us photos. It's really, really cool stuff.
That's
really,
awesome,
really cool
man.
That's really
and I have a flag. And I have a flag that flew over Baghdad. Flew over Baghdad once. They took over Baghdad. I have it in my office. They brought back and they handed it to me. They said, this flew over Baghdad. We raised it and brought it back. So I thought that was pretty amazing.
That's
Awesome.
So the interesting thing in life, so I'm back to doing my thing, and obviously my support of military is amazing. And I'm overhauling. We've done a lot of military people overhauling. So there was this really, really cool sergeant. And his wife was, and I forgot his name, but he's awesome. And we did something, kind of sketchy, which I probably, and I do this all the time, I do kind of stupid, sketchy stuff all the time. So this guy, I read this application about a guy who's currently coming back from Afghanistan, and he's got his dad's old truck. This is one of those stories. He's got his dad's old truck, and they want us to overhaul his dad's truck because his dad passed away, and his dad passed away, and now all he's left is his truck. And he's literally coming back like the next week from Iraq and Afghanistan, and he's going to come back to us, right? Asshole prankers. And so I love the story. I thought it was great. The stupid part, which I'll tell you about in a second. So we actually embedded a camera down in San Pendleton, watched these guys literally get off the bus from Afghanistan, right? And we got the first hug between him and his wife, and it was all nice and beautiful. And the next morning we go to the house and we record this conversation between the two of them, which is like, and by the way, madly insane to do this to a guy who just got back from battle. Basically, the wife told the husband, and he is a massive dude, 240, 250 pounds, just jacked guy, just came out of battle. And we think it's a good idea to have his wife explain to him the day after he gets back that she sold his dad's truck.
Oh my God.
And in hindsight, thank God she's alive. He didn't kill her or anything wacky like that. In hindsight, probably not a good idea to poke the bear one day after he gets back from Afghanistan. But to his credit, it's not going to hit his wife, obviously, and it's odd to think about that. But we also, was pretty stupid by putting this up. So we basically said that his wife sold it. And he's like, what? Like, oh yeah, I've been sitting here for a while. I didn't think you really wanted it. So I told him, he's like, you what? I sold your truck. This is the wife talking to him. He was like, why would you do that? Well, and she was just being, just blasé about it. I'm surprised you didn't care. Anyway, so, but luckily, she gave him the lead to the people who actually bought the truck, which is us. We didn't really buy the truck, we just sold it. And long story short, we ended up, pranking him, doing some good stuff with him, and giving his truck back to him. And he was amazed and wild, right? Here's where the story ties in. So we give his truck back to him. I'm talking to him that night after we gave the truck back to him and told him he's on Overhaulin. He's got this amazing truck, and tears are flowing, and he's going through this mind fucking emotions. And he says to me, he goes, I can't believe a week ago I was sitting in a rack on watch with my sergeant major smoking a Cuban cigars, and now I'm here with you guys on TV.
Aww.
So I said to him, because I'm kind of creepy this way, I'm like, Cuban, there's no way. And to me, there's no way to be not. I said, were you smoking cigars with Sergeant Major Pros? And he goes, yeah, that's my Sergeant Major. I said, well, then you're smoking my cigars because I sent them to you guys. He goes, what are you talking about? I said, Sergeant Major had my email, and I'm Santa Claus, and anytime that he wanted something, I'd send it to you. So that guy was a part of the 168 people that we were supplying stuff to, and he said I was smoking Cuban cigars with my Sergeant Major, and I'm like, there's no way there's that many Cuban cigars floating around Afghanistan. So I just made a guess. This is Sergeant Major Pro. That's like, well, life is magical. That's why you have to treat people the right way and do the right things, and some things come back to you and some things don't, and you just don't fucking know.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was a really cool connection.
That's amazing,
cool,
man.
I love that story. It's not creepy at all.
Yeah.
It's heartwarming.
No, it's only creepy. It's only creepy because you put this poor girl. Listen, I think we'd have different issues. If I go away to fight a war for 6 months back, and my amazing, beautiful, perfect wife come back, says, oh, by the way, I sold your cars, we'd have an issue. I think there'd be an issue.
I get that.
One of the last things I was curious about too was it looks like you've done some production for and creator, I guess, for some mixed martial arts series. Do you have like a background in fighting or any martial arts?
Yeah. Like I said, if you listen to anything I just said the past hour, I have to get involved and do stuff. So I could not be the creator and person that was back and behind a couple big martial arts without training. I've been working. I mean, I'm not saying I'm a cage fighter by any means, but at the time what was happening is I was training a lot with the Machado, which are the cousins of the Gracies, Jean-Jacques Machado and Higa Machado, that's down in the South Bay, Redondo Beach, and then I moved up to the Valley and training a lot with Jean-Jacques. And I was training a lot. I was training with high profile black belts. And my attorney at the time said, and I won't tell you too much story, but then I got involved with the creation starting King of the Cage, which at the time was probably the number 2 mixed martial arts group in the world. We were really building it. I got DVD deals, I had television deals. We were doing pay-per-views. We had some big name fighters, and it started here in Southern California. Really out in Hemet is where we got a deal. And the reason why we had to do it in Hemet because it was illegal, but we found obviously a loophole that we could do it on Indian land. And the Indians were amazing. The Suburban Casino where we did all of our stuff, were like, we're federal land. We don't follow that shit. We're legal park. You want to talk to the athletic commission? You're talking to them. What do you guys want to do? So we set our own rules. They built us a stadium. They did everything for us because we were bringing at that time, we were bringing tens of thousands of people out to Boba Casino out in London, and they were loving it. So yeah, I was lucky enough and fortunate enough to be in the television game and in the DVD game and live television game. So with the mixed martial arts, it just started. Not in 93 when UFC started, but we started ours in 98. But the UFC was dying in 97 and 98. It wouldn't really take off. So the Pachitas bought it in 2001, 2002 when they bought it. But we were grooming talent. We had like every month had a huge event with 10,000 people in it. We put some big figures on in New Orleans. So yeah, I've been involved with that for quite some time, and I've trained with some of the best people in the planet. I love mixed martial arts. Is a very big passion of mine.
Are you still training jiu-jitsu or?
I had not trained jiu-jitsu for maybe 2 or 3 years, and you get old, right?
Yeah.
You get old. The problem I had, and I've been thinking about it a lot, I'm a little bit older now, but the problem I had with jiu-jitsu at the time, and it is actually what makes jiu-jitsu so amazing, is, you train at 90%, and you constantly hurt, constantly.
Yeah.
I had my refrigerator at home was filled with ice bags and slings, compression stuff. We would sometimes train 2 a day. We would train gi and then no gi and then go work out. And then, trust me, in my 20s and 30s, I didn't know even how I sustained that. And then as I got progressed into racing, I was probably in my mid 30s and I was into racing. I just couldn't, like, having Joe Rogan or someone like that hang up my neck trying to choke me to death didn't seem like a good idea right before a race. So I would still train hard, but I didn't want to train at that level anymore because it's hard to continue that level, and it's pretty brutal on your body and your joints. A lot of my friends that are black belts have medical issues and stuff like that.
Yeah,
maybe just a long way to go. Yeah, maybe a long way to go that I'm a pussy and I didn't want to train that. But I know a lot of older black belt guys. But yeah, it's hard to sustain it at a certain level.
I was going to ask you if that's how you knew Joe, because I think he trained with Jean-Jacques Machado, right?
Yeah. Joe and I became friendly because it was me, Eddie Bravo, Todd. We were all trained at the same time with Jean-Jacques.
That's cool.
And then obviously I started training at Joe at his house with Eddie, and Joe and all those guys would come to King of the Cage, and I would VIP those guys into my our cage fights and stuff like that. So Joe and I had a big passion for mixed martial arts at the time. So yeah, that's how we know.
That's cool.
That's really cool, man.
So Bud, what projects are you working on right now?
Oh boy. Well, we are trying with the way that COVID is going on. SEMA just got canceled, so we are doing a very big battle of the buildings for this coming SEMA. So we are working, trying to figure out how to salvage that show.
Yeah.
I have some conference calls today with Disney Channel and try to figure out can we salvage the show? Can we do that independent if the action convention slowing down? So we're working on that. Quietly, I can probably tell you, I'm currently working on I shouldn't say that. Okay. I'm currently working on. I don't know. I'll just tell you. It doesn't matter. I'm currently working on a DeLorean special with Christopher Lloyd, Michael J. Fox, and Josh Gordon.
That's cool.
We love Back to the Future.
Yeah.
We're huge fans. Doc Brown.
Yeah.
Wow, that's cool,
awesome.
man. That's super cool.
It's a super cool kind of big confidential thing that we're doing with Discovery Channel. Excited to, put it together and create. We're working on that. I have a big show with BYU TV called Pictures. And Pictures is a television show where we kind of go around the world and we create infrastructure and do projects for people that are underprivileged. We did a 275-foot water well in Nicaragua. We built a chicken farm and fish farm in Thailand. We're going to build an elephant hospital. We built an after-school program for the kids in Arkansas. I'm leaving tomorrow, to go to Michigan to meet with a guy named Dino who has a boxing gym that he trains underprivileged kids and troubled teens, right? Because I was a troubled teen. I was a jackass. I haven't really changed at all. But if this guy, and I understand all too well, this guy has this awesome gym, wants to expand, wants to help more kids that are troubled, and you can learn some of that from mixed martial arts and boxing, or kickboxing, or community arts in general. It ends up humbling you and focusing you. I've watched some of my closest friends that are complete badasses, and people get in their face, and they're just so calm. They're not going to do anything. So then shut up. When you understand the body and understand what you can do, and it sounds like a farce, but it's not. You really don't want to get in a fist fight in the middle of, King of the Hammer with some drunk douchebag. You're like, dude, you need to walk away. And for me, it's like, no, you're not really, you're not well enough in trying to start fighting people when you understand how to fight.
Exactly.
I think you can learn a lot from that.
Yeah, your ego gets checked pretty quick in jiu-jitsu or even just any martial art, really, I feel like.
Oh, yeah. You have, you're 140, because I used to get choked out all the time by Eddie Bravo. Like 135-pound Eddie Bravo choking your leg off and you're twisting. What is that?
Yeah.
I want to smash him and I want to pick him up. It's like, it's humbling that another human being can do that to you. stone, once you understand that art, it is ridiculously humbling.
Yeah.
And Overhaulin is on now, right?
Yeah, Overhaulin, Overhaulin's always on, and has not been on for almost 16 years. And we just finished on the linear channel, Motor Trend TV, on cable. We just finished like 2 weeks ago our final episode with Shaquille O'Neal.
Cool.
Oh, cool.
There's a Motor Trend app. We're kind of moving into the digital world because we have so many episodes, but the digital app, the Motor Trend app, I'm not done. You can watch every single one of them on the Motor Trend app. It's on your phone. You can download them all.
Gotcha. Well, it was great to meet you, and it was great to get to know you, and thank you for being on with us. And we just really appreciate you telling us not just about your experience in off-road, but all these other interesting avenues that you've been down, and sharing all of this information and your secret project. We won't tell anyone.
Yeah, you've really lived a hell of a life, bud. It's pretty amazing, man. Pretty cool. Pretty special opportunity to hear it all. I appreciate it.
So I didn't let you guys get to talk enough. I apologize. You asked me one story, and I just continue to blab it on. So, but there's much more. So call anytime. I appreciate you guys. I appreciate what you guys get to do.
Thank you. We'd love to have you back
Appreciate
on,
it, man.
and you're an amazing storyteller, for
Yeah,
real.
definitely.
Like we could listen to you all day. So we will definitely have to connect up again and follow up on some of the projects you're working on too.
Yeah, or see you at King of the Hammers one day.
Yeah.
Get in the driver's seat.
Yes. Again, here's the thing. The word is out there. If I'm going to go, I have to go for a purpose, right? And my friends all know me. Dave Cole knows me. Casey knows me. And Jason Shear knows me. All those guys know me. They got to go there for a purpose.
I will find you a purpose.
Yeah.
Don't tempt me.
I'm sure they have multiple cars, right?
Yeah. Each team has a few cars.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, we'll let you get back to it. Thank you so much. And, we'll talk to you soon.
Okay. Thanks, guys.
All right.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you, bud.
Bye.